Intercultural Mediation in a Modern World. Marina will be our main presenter today, and if I can just advise you all that we will be recording this webinar for our funding purposes, so hope that is okay with everyone, and it's just for marketing purposes as well. So just some thoughts on what you will need today, but also some of our ground rules. If you can have your mobile phone with you, that would be great, and pen and paper for your own notes. And after the presentation, you will be sent this PowerPoint. If I can also ask if you can mute your microphones during the presentations, please be open-minded, respect others, and today hopefully is an opportunity to challenge some of your own assumptions and some of our IT contingency. I know Marina's just been supporting someone who may be having problems with the link. If you do get thrown out of the Zoom, then please use the same link, or we can email a new link if there's a problem for all of us. So my name is Val Balding. I work at Inova Consultancy as a tutor and project manager, and before I worked at Inova, I worked for 15 years as a community development tutor in very diverse settings, in diverse community settings, and with participants from very, very diverse backgrounds. And our mission is to develop high quality training and educational programs at Inova to empower individuals and organisations. And our commitment is to embrace diversity in the field of gender, disability, race, age, religion and sexual orientation in order to support personal and professional development. And please do visit our website, www.inovaconsult.com, for more information on all our projects, courses and webinars. So just to give you a little bit of background, Intercultural Mediation Project has been funded by the Erasmus Plus programme as part of the European Union. There are 5 European partner members. We've got the UK, Belgium, Italy, Poland and Portugal. And as part of the project, partners developed a training package to explore intercultural mediation further, and we also deliver diversity circles in all of the partner countries. In addition, we have now created an online platform where we can share the training with you, and this can be accessed from the Intermed website as given below, intermedproject.eu, where you can also access additional resources and material, and it is free as well. So our agenda today is to introduce the topic and what we've done for the intercultural mediation. There will be audience participation, which Marina will lead on via Mentimeter. There will also be discussions. We have some great guest speakers today. So from the discussions, the breakout rooms, it will be followed with feedback, and then there will be conclusions and evaluation. So firstly, what do we mean by cultural mediation? Psychologist Lev Vygotsky explored cultural differences between people and explored social interactions and communication. He studied child development and how patterns and habits are formed in childhood and how this impacts on our culture. But today, our main aims are to explore defining and understanding culture and your own cultural context, support awareness of your own perspective, and how you look at other people's culture to break down stereotypes. Also to create self-awareness about the benefits of an international workforce. So cultural mediation is the process of building bridges between the cultural and social realm, and the building of new relationships between the political, cultural and public spheres. Cultural mediation is a necessity for successful, thriving, sustainable communities. It aims to break down barriers and address stereotyping. It promotes inclusivity and the idea of encouraging every individual to meet their full potential. And I mentioned earlier Bukowski. So I'm now going to hand you over to Marina, who will explain about the Mentimeter.
Hello, thank you, Val. So I'll just stop sharing this screen and go to the Mentimeter one. And what I would like you to do, please, is to have your phone ready, your mobile with you. And can you all see my screen of the Mentimeter? Yes? Yeah, okay. So I would like you to go to www.menti.com on the browsers. I'm doing exactly the same thing just to make sure it's working properly. And then once you are there, please enter the code 9169931. 91, I'll repeat, 9169931, and then click submit. The code is also here. If you can look at my screen at the top, it says the code is also mentioned there. So it will be great if you can all help us by helping us explore what would you like to get out of today. So if you can type in that box that appears in your screen, what would you like to get out of today, and click submit. And then we will be able to, as well, very good for the speakers, to gather your expectations. And you can submit more than one answer if you want. So we have here some different perspectives, get a better understanding of what cultural mediation is. And of course, many of you are mentioning our guest speakers. Tools to interact with others, as well as develop an understanding of differences that may affect such an understanding. Real examples in the world, what has worked and what would have been better. And I think our present guest speakers will be able to cover that. Understand the challenges that we have with intercultural communication, with definitely they are. Learning from others to broaden knowledge, ideas, share experience, fun, inspiration, lots more. Understand what cultural mediation is, gain some tools to practice, learn more, knowing better what is exactly intercultural mediation, finding out experiences from the field, and efficient tools. Okay, so we take notice of that. And toolkit, I think what you all saying is you want also not only the theory, but some practical tools which we will be able to discuss. And as well, we have the breakout rooms where people can then share, of course, their experience with regard to intercultural mediation. The next question that I have is, describe what comes to mind when you think about good intercultural communication. So if you go to your phone and see, again, you should be able to see the next question. If not, just press next question on your screen at the bottom under submit, and you should be able to come to this question. And you can enter 3 options. So let's see what word starts coming up. Empathy, understanding, networks, cultural awareness, openness, inspiring, fun, of course, lack of conflict, cultural awareness. So it seems that the words, the key messages that the majority of us are coming up with, it's empathy and cultural awareness and listening. Those are the main key messages. Of course, there are other things like smiles, which is really nice, and joy. And don't we all want to feel that when we are communicating? We want to have those feelings of empathy and being open-minded, and clarity and readiness to start a new relationship. So then the next question that I have for you is, describe what comes to mind when you think about poor intercultural communication. So if you go to your Mentimeter, you should have this on your phone, this new question appearing on your screens. Okay, so let's see what starts coming up. So lack of understanding is one of the main keywords that we are all agree upon. Lack of confidence, misunderstanding, unhappiness, disrespect, stereotypes, ignorance and racism, being disrespectful, close-minded, prejudice. So we can see a big comparison, right, between having a good intercultural communication of feelings of empathy, fun, rapport, clarity, when against poor intercultural communication, that is this all these feelings that are really detrimental to any relationship: unhappiness, barriers, ignorance, disharmony. So that's why the topic of today is so important, because this is the things that we're going to be addressing. Okay, so we have a video for you to watch. Hopefully the audio will be good enough. If not, don't worry, because we're going to be sending you the link of this video as well for you to watch. Now, Val and Dominique, I cannot see you. I don't see the chat, but if you want me to increase the audio, can you just do like this, because you're all muted, so I cannot hear if the audio is fine. So let's try it.
Hi there.
Hi.
Nice day, huh?
Yeah, finally, right?
Where are you from? Your English is perfect.
San Diego. We speak English there.
Oh, no. Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Orange County, but I never actually lived there.
I mean before that.
Before I was born.
Yeah, like, well, where are your people from?
Well, my great-grandma was from Seoul.
Korean. I knew it. I was like, she's either Japanese or Korean, but I was leaning more towards Korean.
Amazing.
Yeah, Shasina. There's a really good teriyaki barbecue place near my apartment. So I actually really like kimchi.
Cool. What about you? Where are you from?
San Francisco.
But where are you from?
Oh, I'm just American.
Really? You're Native American?
No, just regular American. Oh, well, I guess my grandparents are from England.
Oh, well. Oh, Governor! What's all this then? Dropping the ball into you. Let's get a sporty. Double, toil and trouble. On the camp, beware Jack the Ripper. Bloody hell! Pip, pip. Cheerio! I think your people's fish and chips are amazing.
You're weird.
Really? I'm weird? Must be a Korean thing.
Okay. So I'll hand over back to Val, and Val, I'm going to go back to your presentation so you can discuss this video.
Okay, so thank you. So I think as well as that video, we also have in the PowerPoint, we don't have time to show them today, but we also have some other videos that explore sort of cultural misunderstandings, shall we say. So hopefully when you receive the PowerPoint, you will watch the other videos, and you know, and in the discussions later, we can also explore your thoughts on that. Okay, thank you, Marina. So, culture, what is it? So it is the ideas, customs, and social behaviour of a particular people in society. And what influence our cultural behaviour? So it's custom, religion, language, traditions, music, family, food, drink, fashion, art, drama, and many more. But what else impacts our cultural behaviour? It's also our environment, law, wars, politics, famine, education, where we live, our community, pandemics. So what we're all experiencing at the moment, such as COVID, has changed the way we live. And as it is a global pandemic, it's changing the way people live all over the world. For example, do you sleep with the window open? Do you live in a hot community, a hot country? And the answer may be very different if you live in a cold climate. Then other factors come into play. For instance, is it safe to leave a window open? Did your parents leave the window open? And then looking at habits, the habits that we form, which, you know, whether it's having the window open or not, as humans, we are all creatures of habits. We develop these as children as part of our cultural upbringing. So in addition, external factors like our education, where we work, sport, hobbies, and many other things influence our cultural behaviour. And for example, a young boy or girl may support a particular football team or other sport following on from the previous generation. And a young girl may feel that her place is in the home, doing housework, depending on her upbringing. So, you know, there's so many different aspects of culture. And it impacts our daily life, it affects everything. However, culture, for me, is my perspective, and for you individually, it is your perspective. It is multi-layered. So valuing the perspective of the other person and being open to learn and to change are important parts of cultural synergy. So where does culture come from? Sorry, Marina. It can come from our upbringing, where we live, traditions, religion, as mentioned, family, friends, our beliefs. And it's not limitless. It's our experiences impact on our own cultural beliefs. And as we have new experiences, our beliefs may change. And also, as humans, if you're looking at the iceberg, we're all creatures of habits, but part of sorry, got a technical problem, well, I'm back. So if we look at this cultural iceberg, you can see that there are the section that's above the water, which is the visible culture. So it's such as the things like art, dance, language, tradition, food. But there are other areas of culture that are not so visible to other people. So our communication style, beliefs, attitudes, values, perceptions, cultural and social norms. And as humans, sorry, no, not that one. Some aspects of culture are readily visible, as I said, to the observer. And then Sorry, I keep losing my screen. That's it. So why is it important to have awareness of other cultures? Recognizing and embracing new cultures is beneficial to everyone. It breaks down stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination, and creates more harmonious communities. And culture, as the definition by Hofstede or Hofstede, is the collective mental programming that distinguishes the leadership of a group from that of other groups. So by nature, we are all have some basic needs, whether it's food, water, drink, the feeling to belong. But through education, which is based on values and norms, culture, then it starts to change. There is dynamism in cultures. There is difference in what we believe in, what is good or wrong, what is beautiful or ugly, polite or rude. So in one country, something that is seen as okay, like, you know, today we use like the thumbs up. In another country, it can be seen in a different way. There's lots of different variations. And something that's sort of against nature might be like being left-handed. So that is something that's, you know, not like down to culture. It's just some things that are just individual to us as we are. So does your organisation embrace cultural diversity? Some organisations are working to embrace diversity, while other organisations do have some bias, often unknowingly. And it's often down to misunderstanding. Often internal organisation bias becomes the norm for the organisation. And these are the things that we explored on this course and as part of the research that we did. The lack of understanding of other cultures and diverse cultural needs leads to further misunderstandings and stereotyping, and a reluctance to change is detrimental, not just to the individual, but to organisations and society in general. And so during the training, we delivered this training over 3 sessions at Sheffield Quaker Meeting House, and it was very well attended. And we had learners from very diverse backgrounds, which was great because it impacted on the rich discussion that took place. So a few of the comments from the pilot training, sharing personal experience with each other, the sessions were really valuable, being able to respond to the emerging responses from participants. And also within the training, there is a much wider research base, certainly than what we can touch on today. And one of the things that was commented on was that some of the learners said that 3 sessions was actually not enough. They would have preferred if we'd been able to carry on meeting for a longer period to continue with the discussions and to break down any misunderstandings and stereotypes and just the things, the kind of questions that are not usually asked. Now we're looking at how to create more intercultural awareness. So how do we accept and embrace change? Andre Lord said, it is not our differences that divide us, it is our inability to recognise, accept and celebrate those differences. And awareness is for a large part already the solution of misunderstanding between cultures. It means being open to recognising other cultures and cultural differences. So a lack of knowledge of intercultural awareness really does lead to not just misunderstandings, but it can create upset and annoyances. So how can your organisation embrace cultural diversity? Do you have an equal opportunity policy? You know, is it just there to fulfil legal requirements? Is it up to date? Do you have a diversity plan or strategy? How does culture impact on the decision making? How do you evidence you're embracing diversity? How does your organisation invest in cultural diversity? Do you have regular training to look at diversity training? Does your organisation have a robust complaints procedure? And do you have a diversity officer? Does your organisation make itself accountable if there are any disputes? And do you actively embrace cultural diversity and allow yourself and your team to continually learn about other cultures? Because culture is everywhere. See it today in this virtual classroom. So cultural competence at work: acknowledge cultural differences, embrace and celebrate cultural differences, encourage intercultural gatherings, really make an effort, be genuinely interested in learning about other cultures, aim to acquire new skills related to other cultures, perhaps learn a new language, and have awareness if there is a dominant cultural style in the workplace. So Ofsted was a Dutch psychologist who conducted cultural research in the late 1960s, early 70s. And again, we will add this link to the PowerPoint for you to be able to compare countries, because he came up with 5 areas, 5 dimensions of culture, which are the uncertainty avoidance, individualism versus collectivism, got my tongue around that, masculinity versus femininity approach, long-term orientation, and the power distance. And this is just showing you the kind of things we explored during the training, and which you can imagine created some great discussion. So what we're looking at now, if I just mention as well, we looked at the 5 dimensions. And then in more recent years, I think in 2010, a 6th dimension was added by Ofsted. So just something that you might want to explore yourself, but today we're looking at the 5. So the cultural dominance, it's very much a way of you do what comes natural from your own cultural background and assume that others should adapt to you. It's about achieving your own goals. You don't worry yourself with the well-being of others or their feelings. It can be a very direct approach, and your view should be everyone's view, and everyone should accept your cultural way that it's the best and the only one. So that's the cultural dominance approach, which can not just be the individual, it can end up happening within a family or within an organisation. And the cultural avoidance, you avoid confrontation. You don't impose your own cultural way of doing things in order to keep things calm. You accept the majority vote. It doesn't solve the problem if it is in the workplace. You keep out of it whether you agree or disagree. And conflict is therefore avoided. You feel that, okay, it's nothing to do with me. Cultural accommodation, instead of doing what comes natural in your own country, you make a huge effort to adapt and do what others do, what locals do. And relationships prevail. It's important that you like me, but inside you're not satisfied and with the solution achieved, and no one is any the wiser. Only you know. And cultural compromise, initially it may sound as though, oh, this is a good option, but we'll explore this further. So you partly do what comes naturally from your own cultural background, and you give up part, and the other person is expected to compromise to give up part of them and meet you in the middle. But there is a loss of potential with compromise, since all parties are giving up what they could invest and not communicating for the best options. So the best option is cultural synergy. You develop new ways of working that offer respect. It does not matter who must adapt to whom. It is not about the majority or the minority. You value all cultures for making their unique contribution to making life and work more creative and more dynamic. You take all cultural styles of communication and behaviour into consideration as equally professional. and you accept and recognise cultural differences as a great source of motivation, innovation and growth. It's win-win. And I think cultural synergy is likely to become more important as globalisation evolves, and even currently with the COVID epidemic, for example, technology is bridging the gap. And so it's becoming more likely that our audiences are from much wider geographical areas, whether in the UK or further afield. So taking into account time zones, public holidays outside the UK is becoming more normal. So respecting and embracing cultural differences is definitely the way forward. So now we're going to move on to our guest speakers. So I would like to present our first guest speaker, who's Dr. Panni Loh, who will be discussing her experience with regards to intercultural mediation and also the work she has been doing with Cohesion Sheffield.
Thank you, Val. Good morning, everybody. Really nice to see you this morning. So I started my career as a social worker, and then in 1999, I moved to work for an environmental organisation called Green City Action. We can move on to the next slide and then the next one now. Yeah, that's lovely, thank you. So when I worked for Green City Action, my role was to involve the multicultural community in environmental education. So I thought, wow, this is like a huge, huge role, because in the area that we were based, which was the Burngreave part of Sheffield, at that time there was over 70 languages spoken. The word that was used at that time was multicultural. You probably wouldn't use that term now. So with my arts background, I thought a way to overcome language barriers was through various visual projects and events. The image you can see here was probably the largest event that I organised, which probably over exceeded what the management committee had got in mind. However, thousands and thousands of people came to this event, the Abbeyfield Park Multicultural Festival. But what I want to tell you about is that this didn't happen easily. There was lots of going out and meeting people. For example, I'd heard that if you knocked on the door of the Sikh temple, you would be welcomed. So that's exactly what I did. I didn't know anybody from the Sikh community, but I just went along one day and knocked on the door, and somebody opened the door and welcomed me in. I was soon sitting there having a cup of tea and getting introduced to the equivalent of the management committee for the Sikh temple, and told them all about my plans for the Multicultural Festival. I also went to the churches together. I went to the Hindu temple. I went in barbers' shops. I spoke to people on buses. There was a lot of work involved in going out and meeting people to the places that I went to. I also went into some of the Pakistani Muslim women's houses by invitation and got to sit with them there as well to hear about how they felt about holding a multicultural festival. There was, however, some lots of other challenges, as well as all the hard work of engagement, because there was like various members of the white community came up to me and said, "What are you doing?" And I don't just mean came up to me and asked that question, they shouted at me and said, "This is nothing to do with us. What are you doing? You're only doing it for them." So there were all sorts of challenges like that, but I then explained to them that multicultural meant everybody, and that was the intent. It was to bring everybody together, but it was to celebrate difference in a way that communicated with the people, in a way that they understood, and people mingled and got to know each other. So moving on to 2007, you can now see the next slide, which is of this event, East, West, Spirit, Earth, because I carried on my art practice. I'm a painter, but I also do live art exhibitions at times. And this was one that I did for my PhD, because I did a art practice PhD, and I had to do an exhibition as part of the whole PhD examination. So here you can see people sitting at a round table. There was exhibits in the exhibition, and I don't mean by that the people are exhibits, but the end finale event of the week was this round table discussion called The Importance of Human Relations in the Face of Climate Change. Now, all the people you can see at the table, including Marina, you can see Marina on the other picture there as well. The people came to that through various relationships that I built up with them by going to different events that they were holding, getting to know what they were doing and speaking to them about this event. There was months and months of preparation. It wasn't just simply sending out invites and people arrived there. I did a lot of listening to people, hearing their perspectives, and I also wanted to make sure that when they joined in this roundtable discussion, that they would be honouring of others there, that they would state their own opinions, but they wouldn't directly attack anybody verbally, and definitely not physically, of course. During this time, I also joined the Inova mentoring circles, which I can really highly recommend if there's anybody thinking of doing that. And there were people who came to the opening exhibition from my mentoring circle as well, which was lovely, but I'm not going to show you all those photographs. So zooming on now to 2017, I work for Cohesion Sheffield. And we work cross-sectorally with the, I think we need to go back a few slides. This is fine. We work cross-sectorally with the statutory, private and community voluntary faith organisations, basically to bring about more cohesion, more harmony in Sheffield. And we've got various principles that underlie it, that cohesion is threatened by deprivation. That's the biggest threat to cohesion. We also encourage collaboration and also for people to look at everything through the cohesion lens. So I always say to people that goes to the smallest interactions, like when you're sitting next to somebody on the bus and your approach there, the manner in which you speak to people, the looks that you give people, all these things are vitally important for intercultural communication. We've got about 50 partners now. You can see some of the partners here on this screen, so they're wide and diverse, and we're working with them all to bring about more cohesion in the city. We can go on now to look at one of the collaborations, and I think there's about 7 organisations. Sometimes it needs a few clicks to show all the logos on this slide. So we brought all these organisations together to work on a walk in the Peak District. And here's the walk. And this was like an amazing thing, because not only did this walk happen, but everybody on the walk was able to discuss with one another their thoughts on collaborating with each other, getting to know each other. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of building relationships. And of course, as we know, and we've probably all been outdoors a lot more than we might have done before, being outdoors, that environment gives a totally different atmosphere and can be very helpful and conducive as people are walking and talking. These are some of the countries that the people who took part in the walks came on, and I'm really pleased to say that they're going to continue to do further projects in the future, and they would have been doing during this time. Cohesion Sheffield also organises various intercultural events. Here's a few of them that you can see. There are opportunities to discuss the challenges that we have in the city to cohesion, but also to build relationships and to look at what's working. So the keys really are about listening, about building relationships, and also having an open mind, having the ability and the desire to be able to change your mind and your approach. These things I think are really, really vital to intercultural communication, because if we all just stay set in our own ways of doing things and from our own culture, we're never going to get any further to building up relationships with others. So moving on, I'm still practice as an artist, and I've been regularly over the last 20 years involved in international exhibitions around the world, but of course, because of the COVID pandemic, those aren't happening. But I've still, from the relationship built up with the artists over many years now, we've been holding online exhibitions like this one called Stay Hopeful. I think more countries joined this exhibition from when I took the shot of the slide there here. So that the ability to hold these exhibitions is from all those years of meeting each other, discussing things, getting to some understandings, also having quite a lot of confusion at sometimes through different languages, but humour is definitely a very good aid to moving things along. So that's all I've got to say. These are my contact details. I'm very happy to answer any questions and for people to contact me as well, and I can expand on things further. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Panni.
Thank you, Panni. Dominica, can you make Jamie presenter, please?
Yes. I think you will be able to share your PowerPoint.
There we go. You can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Great stuff. And I hope everybody can see my screen as well. So first of all, Panni, thank you very much for that presentation. I really enjoyed that. And I think the point I would pick up on is that I think the UK can already be very proud about our cultural heritage and diversity. I think one thing that you see from traveling to different places in the world, that the UK is an incredibly diverse place and is home to so many different cultures. But sometimes you need to kind of go away from that and go away from your kind of comfort zone, I guess, to be able to reflect back and see how diverse the UK is, and to be able to then connect with those communities that you mentioned. And sometimes people aren't as forthcoming as you are to go and knock on doors. But for me, having spent time overseas, it really gave me that kind of interest to go and really discover more about the different cultures that are right here on our doorstep. So hello everyone, I'm Jamie. So I'm the managing director of Pagoda Projects. I started doing this over 10 years ago now. And if you guys want to know a bit more about me and my background, I'd encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active on there, and you can kind of have a look at the stuff that I've been doing down the years and get a bit more background on me. The business itself, with Pagoda, we're multi-award winning. Our customer base is made up of government organisations such as the British Council. We've been delivering programmes as part of their Generation UK campaign in mainland China for the last 7 years. We have people like Education New Zealand and the Australian New Colombo plan as our customers. And we also have university customers such as UCLan, Cardiff University, University of Dundee, and various different universities. We also, as part of our sort of pivot and adapting to this pandemic, we also now have a membership option, so that our corporate partners who host interns as part of what we do can also kind of upgrade their membership from being free to gain a bit more consistency, have more interns throughout the year, and kind of produced a nice kind of third revenue stream for us. So what are we trying to do? What is it that we do, and why do we do it? So you can see here we're fairly ambitious. We've welcomed over 3,000 participants onto our program, and despite the customers being larger organizations, in the end, what we're really focused on is students and recent graduates and young people, and really trying to focus on the benefits for them. If the participants, the students and graduates who go out and complete our internship programs are happy, and they have positive outcomes and it positively impacts their life, in the end, the customers who are paying the bills are going to be happy too. So we really like to focus on the people who take part. But also we want to look beyond just the students who take part and the customers who are paying for it. We also want to look at the wider which kind of includes, as from the way we see it, the environment. If people are flying around the world, it has a big impact on the physical environment. And we put a big emphasis on our team, and we're really ambitious in terms of how we can improve our own working environment and make it a great place for people to work. So going back to those outcomes for the students who complete internships as part of the programs that we organize, the 3 key outcomes that we focus on, probably part of the reason why I've been asked by Marina and the team to come along and speak today. The big thing is cultural fluency. So really trying to understand different cultures by physically going there under normal circumstances and really throwing yourself into a different culture at a different part of the world, and trying to understand it by being there. And we've had to adapt this summer. So a lot of our experiences have taken place online like we're doing now. The second key outcome is employability. So looking at jobs, and I'm going to talk very briefly about that too, and digital skills that will equip young people for the future of work, which I wanted to mention too briefly. So one thing that I definitely wanted to cover, because it's what Marina specifically asked me to talk about, so I'm going to try and cover that on this slide. So how internships can play a part in developing positive cultural relationships. And I think that we look at different educational models, so maybe a 3 or 4 year undergraduate course at university, or a summer school and everything in between. And we would say that our program is kind of like a boot camp for these soft skills. So going and spending an intensive period living in a foreign country, one way or another, you're going to be able to learn how to improve your empathy and problem solving skills, critical thinking, and these kind of things that are important for future workers. Marina made the terrible mistake of sharing her slides with me before today. So I know that she's going to talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So I thought I would put a slide in here to kind of hint at the future of work and the importance of modern technology in that. So I'm using this as a prompt to kind of explain a bit more about the pandemic and how that's affected us. So we've been running online internship programs with an accompanying kind of all sorts of different events and support for the students who've taken part this summer, working remotely with companies based in Mexico, based in Vietnam, in China. And we've organized a cultural mentorship scheme. So every student completing this internship has like a buddy. So if they're completing an internship with a Vietnamese company, we pair them with a Vietnamese student so that they have a weekly discussion, that our team kind of prepare discussion topics, icebreakers, and help them to kind of gain an insight whilst online. And I think despite that being like, as a result of the pandemic, actually the future of work is largely kind of moving online. It's very international, very collaborative. And there's a popular statistic of 65% of kids starting primary school now will work in a job that doesn't currently exist. And I don't know quite how accurate that is, but I think the future of work is definitely going to be more online than it is now. So preparing those students for that future is important for us too. So not just digital skills and online work and digital competency, we also want people to have better jobs. So there's a crazy statistic that I dug out for you, that 37% of British workers think that their jobs are meaningless, which is crazy to think. But actually, as we go further into a knowledge economy, more of the work that we do needs to be more meaningful, less menial. Actually, the statistics from UKI show that students who have spent that time abroad studying, volunteering or working are more likely to get jobs that are closely related to their degree and to kind of provide them with more meaning in their life. The other thing that we're trying to achieve with what we do is social mobility. We think that this is really important. We think that what we do has a positive outcome for social mobility. And we think it's important because of statistics like this, which show that those students coming into university from a lower income background and maybe from a family where they're the first in their family to attend university are still too low. And actually the people in the most influential jobs are disproportionately from private schools. So programs that we work on, like the British Council Generation UK campaign, is specifically targeting students and graduates from a lower income background and giving them that exposure to important foreign destinations and trading partners so that they can build that knowledge, gain a different perspective, and create a level playing field between them and their peers. So for me, like, this is kind of a bit cheesy, but this is kind of what we're trying to do. As someone shared this morning on LinkedIn about Steve Jobs saying that the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are more likely to be the ones that do. So yeah, we're trying to make a difference. We're trying to do something that really has a positive impact. And I kind of wanted to leave you on something equally positive. I'm based in Manchester, so I grew up in Sheffield, but I find myself here in Manchester, hence the slide here with the Manchester backdrop. And this is a famous poet from Manchester. This poem is graffitied across a wall in my local area, so it's fairly familiar to me. But the thing that I wanted to leave you guys on is that by taking students out of their comfort zone and sending them overseas and putting them somewhere different, we see it as the equivalent of like throwing someone in at the deep end if they've never left the UK or Europe before. Going to Latin America or Asia is like being thrown in the deep end of a swimming pool, and then asking them to complete an internship at the same time is like throwing 3 juggling balls in after them and asking them to juggle whilst they learn to swim, you know? So we're kind of there to try and provide like a nice lilo or a little life raft in the swimming pool to kind of help them whilst they're picking up all of these new skills, adapting to a new environment, and we're trying to kind of provide them with that support. But what we're also trying to do is highlight the similarities between them and the people that they meet in places like China, in Vietnam, that may seem completely alien and different. And yes, you do need to learn about their culture, their customs, and think about, you know, what you need to do to make sure that you make the most of your time there and really empathize with the people from that culture. But actually, if we focus more on what they have in common, which is actually way more than they ever think that they're going to have, then actually we're in a far better place to start building this cultural understanding. If we start with the commonalities and the things that we all have in common, it's much more likely that they're going to take the positives and bring that back to the UK when they come back here. So that's it from me. I don't know how well I've kept to time there, but if you have questions that we can't cover today, like I said, I encourage you to add me on LinkedIn, and I always respond to anybody who adds me on there and asks a question. So go ahead with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. So I will just now share my presentation. I think it was so interesting. All the points that you mentioned really hit home and take me very nicely to my presentation. Sorry. So can you all see my slides? No? Okay. Is this better? Yeah, great. So thank you very much, Jamie. I think it was fantastic. It built perfectly a bridge to what I'm gonna share, and I have always looked up to the work that Jamie is doing, because I think this is the future to invest in terms of intercultural mediation and intercultural communication, investing in young talent to develop those skills. So I know we're a little bit short of time, so I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible. I wanted to share with you my experience of working with international partners in the work that I have been doing at Inova. And it's more than 20 years, because before doing the work at Inova, I was working at the university, also looking at international projects. So I think I have really grown a lot working in 23 European countries in more than 5 continents. And that means real proper intercultural communication in place in order to develop projects that can have very different meanings to very different people. So I just wanted to share some key messages I think I have learned from that. The first one is, if you want to understand others, you have to start by understanding yourself. And this is very important in terms of empathy. I love the word empathy. It comes from the ancient Greek and means suffering with. And it is this ability that you can understand where somebody's coming from. Now, being an international person myself, having arrived in the UK, I can literally empathize with people that are coming to the UK that are from another country, or working with our international partners where they feel sometimes they don't feel they're in their comfort zone. And that ability to understand that what I felt is what other people are feeling can really connect with each other. I mean, I know many of you that right now are the audience are international yourselves, or somebody like Nick or Jamie who have been working a lot internationally. You develop that kind of becoming a citizen of the world. You can understand where people are coming from, but you know how uncomfortable it is to be in another country and not understand the language or the humor or the context. So I always remember my first shock at the university, my first day at work. When they introduced my line manager to me, it was a gentleman, and I kissed him because we kiss in Mexico, and he was shocked. And then that moment I realized you do not kiss in the UK, because I could literally feel the body language. Now, all those things, of course, afterwards you laugh about it, but it was really uncomfortable for me and to understand what was happening. So, Panni, you mentioned humor, and I think humor is such an important bridge to build relationships, especially when it has to do with different cultures. Now, a Maslow hierarchy, what Jamie was talking about, if you think about international and intercultural mediation and communication, sometimes when you go to a new country where you belong to another group in a dominant group, a lot of the things about safety or belonging, you're still looking for them, right? So it's important in terms of empathy, understand how people can feel uncomfortable when you are trying to communicate in between two different countries and different cultures. And Val, the model that you were showing about the synergy culture, I think that is really a win-win, but it is hard to achieve that. And we have to recognize, working internationally, that there are also a lot of challenges, and that even though the aim is to have a synergy, sometimes it is about the dominant culture. And to start with is English, because when I work internationally, English is the main language that we use, but anyone who is a native speaker of English has already a competitive advantage, right? Because you start with a language that is the important tool to use at a better level than somebody that is trying to communicate in a second language. Now, Covey talks about, in the 7 Habits of Successful People, he talks about seek first to understand and then to be understood. And I think that has been so important in our relationships that we have built with our international partners. We form opinions based on our experiences. And therefore, based on our experience, we have something called RAS, that is called Reticular Activated System. It's something in psychology that talks about that RAS is a bundle of nerves at our brainstem that filters all unnecessary information so that important stuff gets through. So if I do believe that men have to behave in a certain way, that this is how you do business in France, this is how you interact with somebody from Italy, I already have, because of RIS, a very clear system of what I'm looking for. And that is only what I'm gonna see. So if I believe that everybody in Italy eat pasta, when I walk around, I'm only gonna see that. So important to be aware how RAS influence our judgmental mind and how we start forming stereotypes. So the important thing about challenging RAS is having a new frameworks of meaning and trying to understand more and asking more questions to be able to challenge what you think you already have, because it's only an experience. And very often intercultural communication comes from the media, from what people have talked about that specific group. We do not know much. And once you have established that, I think then you can build a relationship of trust. But I have this image because I think it's organic, it's ongoing. It's about, I think, cultural mediation for me in communication is like dancing tango or dancing salsa. You step on people's toes a lot and you make mistakes and you say something that was not appropriate, or you confuse one word for another and everybody laughs because you have said something not relevant. And I think that is to recognize with your international partners or with anyone you are dealing with regard to intercultural communication, even though you might be a teacher and teaching international students or sending international students abroad, is that this is an ongoing process. You have to keep on finding the right way of communicating and making sure the other person feels comfortable, but that you also feel comfortable in what you need to compromise. So I was thinking about things that have helped me that I wanted to share with you. first of all, it's always an effort to speak the language. Even though I might not know Hungarian, I always go when I go to Hungary with my list of good morning, good afternoon, can I have the bill? Thank you very much. That was very nice. And I have my 10 words per language of the country where I go to, and that can make a difference. The only thing about Hungarian is that apparently I say köszönöm, that is thank you very well. So they think I speak Hungarian, and then they go like, woo, in Hungarian. I go like, I'm really sorry. That's the only word I know, köszönöm, thank you. So that can really make a difference because it means that you are making an effort. I also read about the culture and the place prior to arrival to understand the roots, to understand history. And I think that makes a really nice conversation when we are going out for a drink or meal to understand more, and how amazing that somebody's really interested in your culture and where you're coming from. Avoid misunderstandings by not assuming anything, even if it's in your native language. So I originally come from Mexico, so my native language is Spanish, but I have a lot of misunderstandings with my Spaniards counterparts that is also Spanish, because the way that they speak Spanish and some words are rude in Mexico that are not rude in Spain. So I have learned with a lot of sense of humor that you can really get into trouble. So it's important to not assume anything. The best place to learn about the other person is socializing, finding common ground and share experiences. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what language you speak to, what country you come from. We are human beings and we have families, and looking at COVID, that has really brought us together. We even have Mark from Australia that we have become good friends online, and it has been really interesting to be able to tap into other cultures. Now, the use of English as a second language, it's really difficult, and it's important to understand it, because when I am communicating, say, with a certain culture that are very direct, if you do not understand it, that they're using English as a second language, if you are a native speaker, you might feel offended. Or when my Spanish counterparts write in English, I can really understand what they're saying because they're kind of translating Spanish. And it might sound a little bit rude in English, but that's not what they mean. So for whoever, because we speak internationally in English the majority of times, unless for those of you who speak other languages and can refer in the native language of that person, we have always to think about that people are not using English as their first language, and therefore they might come up, you might see them, or they might appear to be rude or not friendly, but we have to understand that language is the major tool. If you don't have it, it's really hard to build those bridges. Modeling in neurolinguistic programming is something very useful. So when you are in an international meeting and everybody speaks different languages and everybody comes from a very different perspective, it's important to come up with how you want the presentation to be, so you start, so people start copying. Or you ask them to start, and then you copy what you think they want you to say or do. So that has very important. Now, in communication, it's very important to define terms up front. What do you mean by this? I found that working internationally, the word curriculum, the word mentoring, the word coaching, in different languages, when you translate it, means different things. And therefore, we always try to define, okay, what does mentoring mean in Spanish? And we try to write words so that at least we have a common understanding. And also understanding how does mentoring work in the workplace, mentoring works informally, so be able to see different contexts. Calibrated questions I refer as open-ended questions, and usually start with how or what, as these questions don't lend themselves to a yes or no response. So for example, how does this seem to you, rather than does this look good? You can get out more answers than that. A good doctor, instead of asking, do you feel pain? She might say, what can you tell me about any sensations you're experiencing, such as pain? So calibrated questions have also always been very good for calibrating answers and for connecting when you're speaking with people that English is not their native language, like myself. Now, my final 2 slides is when I came to the UK, I realized how Mexican I was not, because people were referring to all these symbols. Somebody even asked me if I had a burro back home, a donkey in my house. And even though I have never thought about it, I realized about the importance of stereotypes. And then I understood suddenly that I was more Mexican than ever been in the UK, because I could then refer to those stereotypes. So in a way, stereotypes are positive because it can give us a meaning. It can give us connections, especially positive stereotypes. But at the same time, we have to really be aware not to generalize and not to say that all Italians like pizza or all Mexicans eat chili. We try to connect, but sometimes it's maybe asking somebody in Italy, so tell me, what do you like eating, rather than saying, how do you really enjoy your pasta? So having those assumptions being challenged. Now, culture does not make people. People make culture. And I want to believe that when we interact with different cultures, when we mediate, when we communicate, we are the ones making that culture and making those bridges. So the title for our presentation today was International Mediation in the Modern World. And I want to think that the modern world, intercultural communication is the one that we're making today. So thank you very much for that. I just wanted to ask Andira, who is also Mexican and is part of the group. Andira, you have also something to share about gender. Do you want to share that with us? You had a very relevant comment.
Hi, everybody. Well, I was just, I didn't prepare anything at that level, but I was just, when Marina told me about this event, one thing that caught my attention, and I think Val had in her talk introduced this idea of different dimensions in terms of culture and cultural communication, what is elements of, I guess, cultural identity, I would say. And I was just wondering, especially thinking of the modern world, I think culture intersects a lot with within culture. There are a lot of expectations about behavior coming from, what is it expected from men and for women, and how we should behave, for instance, in the public space, and what should we say, and what should we do, and all, and so if it's already within any culture, there is already a lot of sort of mediation or communication you have to do when you are, for instance, a woman or a man, facing contexts that are not traditionally your own. That is already, a challenge. But then you are sometimes, like in my case, I'm in a different culture and I am a woman, and I interact with people from different cultures where also gender understandings of gender and gender roles may be quite even different, because it's not the same, the way, for instance, the impact of the social movement that has had in Mexico as it has had it in Iran. And I have an Iranian colleague who often makes comments who are like, I'm like, what century are you in, right? And we're supposed to be like same age, and he's already, saying things that, at least in my generation, even my mother's generation, you wouldn't say, even in Mexico, let alone the UK. And he, I think, gets away with them because he's a man, and he's in a context where perhaps before he didn't interact with that many women, until now that he's surrounded by a lot of women from different cultures. So that was my comment that I think. And then if we move on to this kind of intersection of, what is culture and then gender, then we have recently had a small kind of workshop with someone at work, and I work at the International College, by the way, so it's quite, international, where he talked to us about the LGBTQ+, I believe, community, and how all this new language that you have to be careful about, and how sometimes people may want to be called with a different pronoun, and all that opens up a whole new, language and vocabulary and codes that I think, at least my generation wasn't really quite aware of. And we're dealing with younger people. We also have to be kind of aware that when they travel, it was very interesting knowing about these international internships. When they travel, have, they may encounter younger people in those cultures that may be also facing situations of, gender or sexual orientation discrimination that we didn't think of before when we started these notions, that kind of monolithic understanding of culture in a way. So yeah, that's all I wanted to bring up. It was really quite specific, but I think it's something to, when looking ahead and thinking of tools and how to communicate across culture, to keep in also mind that there is this kind of intersection in terms of other identities that sometimes, make that we just have to be aware of, and actually lead to even improving our communication, because you may have facing experiences, let's say, of being a woman or being a gay person, or or someone who is considered, who doesn't adjust to those categories, and then you find them in other cultures as well. So it's a lot.
Thank you, Indira. I think that is very relevant, because we're going to be discussing in the breakout rooms much more, the challenges that we might be facing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for giving me the space.
Val, we're having a break right now, right, of 5 minutes, and then when we come back, we're going to go into the breakout rooms. And also, if you have any questions for our speakers, you can also put them in the chat. So while everybody's having a coffee, our speakers maybe, while they also get a drink, can see if you have any specific questions. So when we come back, 5 minutes, so we are running slightly late, so we're gonna have, for us, Val and Dominique, if you can stay online just to talk about how long should we talk, the breakout rooms will be then less time, right? Because we're running a bit late. So if you can all come back at 11:24.
Cultural heaven, paradise.
I like this part though where we're interacting, and I'm not just reading. I found it very difficult for my first PowerPoint, but that was me stepping out of my comfort zone today. What about you, Pat? How did you find it?
Yeah, it's been okay. I found it easier not to have notes to read from in the end.
Yeah, well, I've got too many notes. I've got yellow Post-its all around my computer, and I think that probably wasn't a good idea in the end. But anyway.
Val, would you like to summarize the 3 key points from your group?
Yes, well, we had 6 points, so I'll just try to quickly summarize and bring them together. So I think one of the points was definitely to make the workplace itself more diverse.
Can you please remind us what were you discussing in your group?
The benefits of working in a culturally diverse workplace. So, for instance, if it's an organisation that's working with the public, but yet it's majority white people, then that's disadvantageous, and having a multicultural workforce is so important. To have more creativity was mentioned, so the benefits of having different languages leads to creativity. And I think it was Nikki mentioned the concept of the gap year, how many, if an employee has had a gap year, if it's someone who's been to university and had a gap year, what they bring then to the organisation due to their cultural experiences from that gap year. There were many other things discussed, but I'm conscious of time, so okay, thanks, Maria.
Thank you. Panni, can you remind us what you discussed in your group and what were the 3 main outcomes, please?
So we discussed the challenges to working in an intercultural team. One of the things that we discussed from different angles and aspects was accidentally trespassing on someone else's feelings. So just not being aware that something you might say or do is actually offensive to somebody else. What kind of coupled up with that was the confusion that then results because you don't know what's going on, but you can see the other person's obviously offended. So a good antidote to that was obviously lots of discussion and not taking things personally and being prepared to find out. Something else that we discussed also was when somebody or a whole family or community have moved from one culture to another culture, probably from different countries, that the home attitudes can still exist within the household, but whether it's the adults or the children growing up there, they're going out into the wider environment and wanting to do like everybody else is doing, that they come into contact with in the wider environment, but then going back home and not finding that this is acceptable. So those sort of challenges are presenting themselves in the workplace as well, because people aren't able to sometimes participate as well, or you don't know that they're experiencing these problems at home. So somebody in our group actually worked particularly with women who were suffering from domestic abuse because of this type of problem. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Panni. Jamie, can I hand over to you, please?
Sure. Yeah, we had a very interesting chat actually, and talked a bit about social mobility and a few other things, but we talked mainly about ways of improving intercultural communication. So 3 highlights that I've tried to draw. One would be talking to people as much as possible in an informal setting. I think somebody phrased this as going to the pub in a foreign setting, but I think there's many different informal settings where you can kind of explore without the fear of faux pas, I think, and learn from that. The second point was peer feedback and mentoring. So actively seeking feedback as to how your approach to different cultures is coming across, and working with mentors in order to do that in a more formal way, it came up too. And the third one was investing in soft skills. So maybe identifying within a team that some training might need to be required, or other ways of enhancing soft skills and then investing in those. So those were the 3 that we kind of took to bring back to you guys.
Thank you very much. I think all those topics, you know, support each other a lot in terms of what we're trying to aim. And so we have all the benefits, the challenges, and the ways of improving. And we all, I think, all personally, coming from different cultures or having different cultural experiences, always have to be looking at those 3 aims, right? What we're doing well, celebrating what we're doing well, looking at what we have to change, and looking at new ways of addressing a culture. So Val, if that's okay, I would like to move to Mentimeter so everybody can vote again and see how everybody is doing. And then I can then show the slide that you want, your slide about OERs. For people, yeah, is that okay, Val? Okay, so I'm gonna, if you have your phone again ready to vote, I'm gonna share again my screen. Okay, so can you all see my screen?
I think there might be some new people here, Marina, who might not know what.
Okay, so you have to all please go to the website menti.com using your browser of your phone. And if you are new to menti.com right now, you're joining us, please enter the code 9169931. I repeat, 9169931. So if you can share with us, what are the key messages you take from today's session?
On my screen, I've got how confident are you to apply what you have learned with regard to intercultural mediation? How do I get to?
Maybe you would, can you?
I had that as well, Elizabeth, and then at the top I had a message saying the presenter has changed the slide, and then you can press go to the current slide, I think. Do you have that?
I saw it, but I didn't see how to get back to something else. So what do I press?
Do you still have that banner at the top that says go to the current slide, or?
No.
No.
Okay, I'll start again. I'll enter the code. 91699131. Okay.
Okay, so a lot of interesting things are coming up. First, understand yourself, intercultural difference. It is not easy. Importance of discussion, and we are really grateful that you are spending your time with us today to discuss this very important aspect. New ways of thinking, cultural synergy, self-knowledge is key. Celebrate diversity, inspiring. Is there something that any of our speakers, Panni or Jamie, want to add about this, about what is coming up of?
I think with the discussion that came up in our breakout meeting about how important it is to have the discussions, that sometimes things are brushed under the carpet. So we need to have them, yes.
Yeah. How about you, Panni or Jamie?
Yeah, I think there was I'm not quite sure if it's cultural synergy as the way it's written here, but there was the thing about looking at what people have got in common and then building on that to look at the differences and different attitudes and trying to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, picking out a couple there about understanding yourself first. And I think that's important when you're trying to kind of make progress anywhere. And we took the same approach to mental health for our participants, where we kind of looked at applying all of this, the kind of training and improvements that we wanted to see on ourselves first, and kind of road tested it within our own team. So I feel like maybe starting with yourself and then building to kind of seek critical feedback from others is maybe a good kind of step by step.
I think talking about social mobility, Jamie, first understand yourself. There's no better way of understanding yourself when you're in another culture and you realize that all your assumptions are being tested.
916-993.
And oh, I think someone has not muted their microphone. Okay, so let's go to the next poll that I wanted to ask you, and that is, let me just wipe on the next one. Oh, let me just, okay, so the next one is, how confident, and some of you have already voted, but how confident are you to apply what you have learned with regard to intercultural mediation? Another topic says go to slide in your phone, so.
Hello, folks. 916-9931.
Yeah,
Where am I?
code, yeah. So if you go to the website www.menteam.com, then you can.
I'm there.
Then yeah, the code
9169931.
Yeah.
169931.
Great use of gifts here, by the way, guys. Appreciating that.
Okay, so it seems that we are very confident and quite confident. I think it's just 5 and 5, although quite confident is winning. But I think it's really nice to hear that having these conversations also, it's about challenging assumptions and things that we all sometimes take for granted when we're dealing with cultures, and understanding that there are challenges, but at the same time it's about making progress and having those reflections. So I'm gonna just move Val to your presentation so you can show the other open educational resources. Let me just go back to here.
Okay, thank you, Marina. Yeah, so these are just, these will be available in the PowerPoint that we sent through, and I will also add the one for Ofsted as well. And the first one, Where Are You From, is the one that we all looked at earlier, that Marina showed in the first Mentimeter section. And then there are a few others that just really, you know, in a humorous way, I suppose, as well, highlight some cultural differences. And as Panni said earlier, I think it is important to maintain a sense of humour, and hopefully you will get the opportunity to look at these, as well as to look at the online platform that has been created as part of this project, for you to look at the online training that was, the face-to-face training that was delivered, that is now on the platform. And then just some coming events. I'm afraid that the screen's a bit too small for me, I can't actually see what it is. So we've got the Explore Mindful Management, which is next Wednesday. And okay. And Get Confident Through Movement and Storytelling, which is Wednesday, the 7th of October. So a bit further on in the year for that one. And so now, Dominique, are you sending the link for the evaluation form?
You're mute. Dominica, you're muted.
Oh yeah, you can find the link in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Dominica. So if everyone could please fill out the evaluation form for today's webinar, that would be fantastic. Thank you. I'd just like to thank again our speakers, which, you know, it's great to listen, and I've made a few notes myself, so I'll probably might come back to you, Panni and Jamie, on some things to follow up, if that's okay. And Marina, I see you every time I'm in work, so yeah.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Is everyone able to access the evaluation? Okay.
It's best accessed over the computer. It's not a mobile friendly screen because it just runs off the page.
Oh, okay.
I would advise people to access it from another device. If they're on the phone now, go to the laptop or the desktop or whatever computer and access it. It's better on the way over the big screen.
You could try just turning landscape photos on your phone. Sometimes that makes it easier.
Let me see what happens if I do that. Not thought of that.
Yeah, see if that makes it easier for you. It's all right. I frequently run into that problem.
Okay, well, turning to landscape is not configured on this mobile at the moment. It's I've just tried to do that, and well, I mean, that might only work for Zoom if it's, but the browser is not configured for it, so I'll have to just access it on the desktop or computer when I get down there. It would help if the email link to it was sent.
Yeah, I will send the link in the email. Thank you.
Yeah, and with the slides and all. Well, unfortunately, I couldn't make all of the breakout because I have no idea what we were talking about in there. But I can only get a rough gist based upon what I've been gaining from when I was here.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm going to be releasing a video address soon based upon, which is called Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, and it discusses everything in detail from a spiritual and eschatological point of view, and about soul searching.
Someone is joining as well, Dominica. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody joining us very late. It happens. It's when lives are chaotic, and I have to go down.
Can I just also thank again Panni, Jamie, Val. Panni and Jamie, I think you're a living example of walking the talk and doing great stuff for improving, you know, our intercultural competencies. And if you, I will invite you to connect with Panni and Jamie over LinkedIn and promote the internships that also Jamie are offering. Some of you work at colleges, some of you are working or have companies abroad that might be interested in hosting more students. I think we all have to take the responsibility of becoming change agents and being able to foster social mobility and foster our intercultural knowledge and awareness. So on that note, it's just perfect timing. It's 12 o'clock. I really want to thank you, Val. Thank you very much for the project, because you ran this project for almost 2 years. And I think a lot of the people have given us amazing feedback about they have put things into practice and implemented back home. If you want more tools, you can find them as well on the website. Dominica, could you think, or Val, could you put in the chat the website of Intermed? Or if not, we can send it to them in an email. Maybe when we send the PowerPoint. Yeah,
it's on the PowerPoint already, Marina.
We can.
It's www.intermed.eu, but it will be on the PowerPoint as well.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, everyone. For some of you that want to stay behind and networking, you're more than invited. And for those of you who have to probably go to another Zoom meeting or another connection, another room in Zoom, I'll let you go. And thank you very much for participating, and wish you a lovely week.
Thank you, Marina.
Gracias.
Thanks, Marina. See you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Jamie.
Bye.
Bye.